Happy Monday. Happy Monday, social media world. All right. Hey, Alana. Well, today I am going to talk about how getting laid off eventually led me here. Last week I talked about how, or was it the week before last? Time just keep moving on. But I talked about how getting laid off sucked. And it did. And it still haunts me by some of the memories. Um, Being laid off took me from a 800 credit score, two cars, two houses, zero debt, plenty of credit cards with high credit limits and no balances, to living off my credit cards to a point that they were all maxed out, to a point that they were not only maxed out, they were delinquent. In addition to that 800 credit score plummeting to God knows what, but it was embarrassing, to having to sell one of my houses in order to pay off some of the extraordinary debt that I had gotten myself into. How I had to take one car and basically, instead of getting it repaired, which it eventually needed, I sold it. And then life happens and another vehicle was gone and my house was at risk of foreclosure. Hey, Sophia. There was so many different things that was going on that my security, my confidence, everything started to plummet. And when that happened, I classified myself as being the worst employee ever. And you may be saying, well, Terry, get myself. I know that's right. Well, I'm going to have to make sure I keep my phone on me so I can get alert when you're live, my friend. Maybe there's a way to get those notifications on. Who knows? But thank you for the support. I really do appreciate that. Um, I I was saying that when getting laid off, it really changed me and it changed what I had established. And growing up in a space where you get a job, that sounds good. I would love to go live with you one day soon. Getting another job was something I was expected to do because it was one of those things. You get a job, you work that job, and you get retired. Or you graduate from high school, you go to college, you get whatever appropriate degree that you're supposed to get, then you get a job, pay off the college student loans, and then you establish life and then you retire, right? That is the totality of what that picture looked like. So I never thought about business ownership. It wasn't anything that was on my radar. On my radar was, Terry, you need to hurry up and find another job. On my radar was, how many different ways can I update my resume in order for my resume to look attractive to others? And then later on to realize that it wasn't the year 2000 anymore, it was 2016, and people weren't really the first point of contact when it came down to resumes. So that was a whole new learning curve for me as well. And I had to compete among what society now was requesting of was degrees. In 2000, when I got hired at this particular company as a frontline associate, having a degree was not necessary. Becoming a leader within the company, having a degree wasn't required. It was the experience. So things was different. And getting laid off started to open my eyes to a lot of different things. One, how other companies run their business. Not every company values their employees. Not every company values um, education, furthering the education, like the one that I came off of, it was very different. And as I continued to explore the opportunity of getting other employment, it it made me really question my decisions. And I had to go back in time and think about the sacrifices I made as an employee for that company. How many times my children, as a single mom, couldn't do extracurricular activities because my shift didn't warrant me the ability to do so. And I already was putting a burden that my parents was willing to do by helping me. But who was I to ask them? You're already picking them up from school. You're already helping them with homework. Now I want you to take them to a practice or something like that. And how I couldn't get that time back after getting laid off. That that was eye-opening for me, that I made sacrifices for a entity in order to provide stability for my family as a single mom. And that entity, when they made their decision, didn't care about what my life looked like afterwards. It was all on me. And when I started these other jobs, I was like, I made a certain income. I had a certain statute that I had to continue. And I was not, and it'd be like, oh, you were living like the Joneses. Well, my last name is Hill and my maiden name was Harrison. And none of that had the letter J in it. So I was not living like the Joneses. I was living within my means. My means changed. And because my means changed based upon an employer no longer having our footprint within their vicinity in Virginia and they laying us off, that was my demise. Not not me trying to ball out. It was me trying to get back to the place that I was so that my family was able to still move forward. So getting laid off eventually showed me, can't speak for anybody else, it showed me that there had to be a better way. And that better way meant that I could no longer be controlled by an entity, by an employer, by a company, by a manager, by an attendance policy, by, commuting in traffic. I could no longer be controlled by those particular circumstances. I needed to make a change where I could start to be more control of myself. And some of those decisions along the way, I said, well, I'll get me two jobs. By getting me two jobs, then my kids are, old enough. My youngest was a teenager in high school. My oldest was now a mom herself. So, a young mom, but nevertheless, she was a mom herself. So I didn't have minors that I needed to take care of. So in that instance, I can do that, get my debt cleaned out, and then I can start to live life back the way that I was used to. But unfortunately, I am no longer 20 anymore. So no longer being 20 and my body saying, oh, you're tired and not be able to fight through it. The ability to work a graveyard shift, get a couple hours of sleep and then go to work was something that I couldn't do. Then my story that I shared in the city that I moved to, it had nothing but warehouses. So the thought of working in a warehouse just to say I don't have pride, let me go there. Pride had nothing to do with what I was made to do. I was the bougie girl to sit behind the desk. So to sit in a hot warehouse cutting a box and bending, where no matter how much you say don't bend on your knees, your back, or whatever, I couldn't figure it out. It was too complicated. I just was messing up. And then it led me to the point that I said, forget it. I couldn't function. things happen. And I said, you know what? I sat down, and I don't know about y'all, but it's always good to have good friends, good people in your corner that care about you. And a friend of mine has sat down with me one day, and they said, girl, your house about to be foreclosed on. What you gonna do? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I can't figure it out. She said, well, why don't she said, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 15. Why don't you just go ahead and find something you like to do, get an LLC, and make a business out of it? I'm like, a business? I don't know about that. I'm used to working for somebody else. She said, just try it. What else you gotta lose? So I started to think about, what do I like to do? I'm like, well, some people say I got OCD. Some people say, well, you're Aries, you like to control things. Well, I don't want to control people, but I can control dirt. So I started a residential cleaning company. Had no earthly idea how to be a traditional business owner, but that's what I did. Turned out that I liked it, y'all. I did. I liked making my own schedule. I liked having the control of, this is going to be my client or this is not going to be my client. I had the control of figuring out, okay, this is the route I was going to take. It was some fun things in it. There were some hard things too, like figuring out pricing, trying to stay competitive, figuring out techniques in these move out cleans when people hadn't cleaned out their houses in 20 years. And now I got to get it real estate ready to sell. There was some complicated things as well, in addition to the fact that people didn't know, they had different expectations of what clean is. Clean doesn't mean brand new. And letting somebody know that if you haven't cleaned your house in 20 years, some things may need a paint job, not bleach. So there was some things that I had to learn that working on a job didn't teach me. There were skill sets that, even though all my jobs were customer service focused, it was different being an entrepreneur and having to make prices and deal with different personalities with the expectations based upon it. Was a lot. It was a lot. But getting laid off led me here. It led me to a place that I needed to do something different that I never had done before. And you guys, it worked. It worked. I started to be able to take and chunk out some of my debt. Hey, how you doing? I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day too. I can't see. Who is this? Hey, Auntie. Hey, Auntie. Hey. Hey, Niecy Pooh. So I can't see, but I guess. Okay. Anyway, let me stop. Stay focused. Stay focused. So, I was talking about taking me out the comfort zone as far as working in the business, had me get out the comfort zone and start to move forward in cleaning these houses. And I started to get financial stable again, you guys, and that felt good. But what also felt good is that when I was stuck in traffic and I was a little late, my mom said, "You're going to be late to that customer's house." I said, "Mom, I'm in traffic. There was an accident on the road. I'm the boss. Who I'm going to fire? Nobody." That was a different type of, okay. There was a little pride in that. I was like, oh, I can't fire myself. And I was leaving an hour and a half before some of these clients' home. So it felt different. It really did. But I didn't have support. I didn't have anyone in the initial beginning to run ideas about. And so I made some mistakes along the way. True enough, I did. And I learned from those mistakes, but I didn't have anybody to talk to. And I think it would have made things a lot easier in the beginning if I had somebody to talk to that was willing to share tips and trades about being a business owner. Um, Especially when it was in the service industry, it would have been different. Then life happened, you guys. Life happened. And when life happens again, my dad got sick. I had dealt with some traumatic situations in my life as well. And then mom got sick and mom moved in with me. And when they did, I'm the business owner, you guys. I'm a traditional business owner, and I have the right to say, hey, look, I'm not taking no more new clients because family's first. And I did that. I did that. And I stood on business. That was a non negotiable for me. But my non negotiable became a financial situationship because what ended up happening, everybody else's lives around me started to change. I had clients that moved away. I had clients who had their own financial circumstances that now I am not a need, I'm a want, and I'm a want that now has to no longer be in business with them anymore. And as that started to happen, my money started to change. And you guys, I I was scared because now bill collectors had stopped calling me. And now they started to call me again because I didn't have the money to pay them. I paid them the necessities. I refused to let my house get back in foreclosure again. So I made sure that that wasn't happening. But it was starting to happen again. And I realized that I needed some additional income. And I needed it. I needed a way out because I didn't have another backup plan. You would have thought after getting laid off, I would have thought of a backup plan and I didn't. So somebody had introduced me to the ability to be a travel agent. And I took a real look at it. And I was skeptical at first because I was like, wait a minute, I ain't got time to be working for nobody else. I just overcame that mentality. I wasn't going back. And they're like, no, Terry, you're not working for yourself. You're a 1099 contractor. I said, what is that? I didn't know what that was. So I had to look that up. I said, okay. So that's basically me being a business for myself, but not having an LLC. They're like, exactly. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, what does that cost? And the startup cost was, I thought that the girl was joking. I really did. Because when I did my research, when she mentioned it, starting some with all the credentials and cost associated with the that's needed to book trips, that was thousands and thousands of dollars. And I was like, I ain't got thousands of dollars. Didn't I say that my debt going backwards? She said, Terry, that's not it. That's not it. That's not how it works. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, how does it work? And when I got the information, I realized there was no quotas. If I didn't sell anything, nobody was going to write me up. I had the autonomy to make my own schedule. I had the autonomy of the the clients that I would book trips with. It was, it was some real good stuff. In addition to the fact, there was some other great information I learned along the way, put it that way. And when I got that understanding and clarity, I jumped right on in. You know, the monthly overhead was cheaper than the vacuums that I was buying on a monthly basis, the cleaning supplies that I was buying, and the gas that I was spending. It made sense for me. And I'm gonna tell you guys, getting laid off sucked. It really did. But if I hadn't got laid off, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in a situation where I can travel more. I wouldn't be in a situation where I can help someone else know that it's you don't have to be at home. There's staycation, there's so many places a person could go in their own state and still have fun. I learned a lot. And I would not have been able to do that. See, when I worked at the bank, I was able to travel, but I traveled on the bank's dime. I didn't know all the other additional um, things on the inside of the travel business. I didn't know it. I was a recipient of it. I did business trips and pleasure trips on the bank's dime. I didn't know that. I miss traveling, and I got a chance to do it all over again because of this business. It felt good. You know, one of the things that attracted me to this business is I know that if my dad was still alive, he would want to take my mom and do things with my mom and show her a way, a life, and to be so many different places, especially because all the kids was grown. My brother and I were grown. The grandchildren, the first layer of grandchildren were all grown. They didn't have to watch nobody no more. They didn't have to play, grandparent daycare. They could live. They could travel. My dad had finally got on a plane, so he won't scared to fly, so they could do things. And I thought about the fact that here I am, the eldest child, now being, the supportive caregiver to my mom. And now I have the opportunity as a travel agent to take my mom places that I know my dad wish if he was alive he could take her. That that was exciting to me. That was exciting to me, to get a chance to have my mom in a position that she could live. She spent her entire life helping others. Now to give my mom a life that she can just sit back and be catered to on a whole nother level, that she could dip her feet in some blue water, not that Virginia Beach water, that blue water. She can walk on that sand, that white sand. Y'all, that's a different type of pride. That's a different type of feeling, Yasmin. It's a different feeling to be able to do something for your parent as much as they have given you. And I wouldn't have gotten to this place if I hadn't got laid off. I would have still been going in to that job, driving through the tunnel, bringing my laptop home, checking numbers, making sure that my direct reports were taken care of. I would have still been doing the same old thing if I wouldn't have got laid off. I wouldn't have had the taste of, you know what? I don't want to do nothing today. And ain't nobody yelling at me. I wouldn't have had that feeling. I wouldn't have had the pride of, this is mine, if I hadn't got laid off. So sometimes what seems like a bad situation, you have to sit back and think about, what lessons can you learn? What did it teach you? What can you be grateful for? So I had to be a responsible adult, because when I did that live and I said getting laid off sucked, I truly meant it. I believe it, and I go down to it with my core. However, I am grateful in hindsight for getting laid off, because I get to experience a freedom that I never in my life would have experienced before, still being employed. I would have never been able to have the comfort of, by me working 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, as a traditional entrepreneur, if I hadn't tapped into the travel industry, I would not have the experience of saying, wow, it feels good. I only do this other type of work 4 days out of the month. And then the rest of those days, the rest of those 26 or 27 days out of the week, if I'm not traveling, I could do this business. And I love it. I love it, y'all. I have a couple that the spouse wants to surprise the other spouse for their birthday for a trip. And to be the part of that surprise, to make that person's dream that they've been manifesting in their head come out to fruition, that gives me a different type of joy. I get to do that. To have another client that I assisted on Friday, they wanted to book some cabins, and they realized that the loyalty number attached to that particular cruise line, they couldn't figure it out for one of the members of the party. And that I got to be private eye detective, get down to the root cause on why that happened, and be able to resolve a 12-year-old mystery for that particular client. And now they're back made whole over a little simple thing that I was able to fix. That feels good. That's a different sense of pride. That I did not know, being the recipient of travel trips and booking it as on a customer level, I did not know and understand the business of travel. Just like before, I knew how to clean my house. I knew how to clean a toilet. I knew how to wash dishes. I knew how to vacuum a floor. I knew all about it. But until I became a residential cleaner, I did not understand the business of being a residential cleaner, even though I knew how to clean a house. See, there's a difference, you guys. When you do something recreational or for a need, clean the house isn't recreational. I hope y'all understand that. When you clean your house, it's because it needs it. But travel can be recreational. But when you understand the business of whatever that act is, it takes it to a whole nother level. A great leader that I had at Bank of America, Mr. Jones, he had always told us to be a student of the business. And he shared the importance of why being a student of the business is important to be. So when I became a residential cleaner, I decided that I wanted to understand little things a little bit better. Some of it was boring, but I did it. But being a travel agent, y'all, oh my God. Understanding why different suppliers have different perks, understanding that a client can get XYZ. Y'all, that stuff is exciting. It's fun. It's a whole nother level. It is a whole nother level. It's like the science that people say, oh, well, in the middle of the night, you set your alarm and you go look at such and such, and it could be cheaper. It's being a travel business owner. There's a whole lot more that you can learn that you would be more excited about than you thought you would. That's why you see a lot of travel agents travel. I did a post yesterday of the upcoming trips I have. I don't talk about it that often, but it's fun, y'all. The travel industry is the sexiest thing out there, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, being healthy is a perk. Being fit is a perk. Being in a business where you help people with insurance is great. But to help people book trips, save if they can, or be well educated and aware of what's going on, And to be able to do it yourself, man, man, the only regret I have is that I didn't start sooner. It's the only regret I had. So, yeah, I lost a lot getting laid off. I really did. But I gained a lot being in the position that I am in now. And if I did not get laid off, I wouldn't be here today. So I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you got going on in life. You may be recouping from your wonderful 4th of July weekend celebration and waiting for your next paycheck to cover what you took because you had a little bit more extra fun than you thought. But what if you could do something that can work along your busy life and you get to take advantage of what it has to offer and be able to make money at the same time? Would you do it? Would you do it? That's all. Would you do it? And if you wouldn't, why? And if you don't have a real reason why, then you need to talk to me just to get the information, just to make an educated decision. Inbox me. You see, I'm up here rambling for over 30 minutes. I love to talk because this is exciting to me. This is exciting to me, Yasmin. Yasmin, it's exciting to be able to travel more, to be able to have the time freedom because of travel. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that I would have been able to not work 7 days a week, 10 hours a day because of travel? You could have told me this back in January of 2024, November 2023. You couldn't tell me back then. You couldn't tell me back on those dates that my life would not be the same again because of a travel business. Mm-mm. Nah. You could have told me that back in 2016 when I got laid off, that I wasn't going to be clocking in to another business at the age of 53. You couldn't tell me that. I knew I was going to be clocking in somewhere, but that wasn't the case. So I implore you, especially if you're already traveling, if you took a trip last year or this year and you booked it yourself, then you need to talk to me. You need to take 15 minutes of your time and have a conversation with me. If you booked it and you're not a travel agent, you need to talk to me. I double dare you. I triple dare you. But hey, Charlotte. All right, you guys. Well, I got some things I need to do. But I wanted to get up here for a few minutes as a responsible adult and say that in spite of being laid off sucked, it led me here to a place where I can help others with their dream destination and I can continue to go on mine. Well, this is the start of the week. Have a phenomenal week on purpose.